I'd like to open the County of Chautauqua Industrial Development Agency meeting. This is a board of directors meeting. It's being held in two locations. EWB Building, 201 West 3rd Street, Jamestown, New York, second floor boardroom. And the Fredonia Technology Incubator, 214 Central Avenue, Dunkirk, New York, first floor conference room. It's electronically via live stream on YouTube and Zoom. It's September 27th, 2022. It's a little past 10 a.m. and we do have quorum. Roll call, please. Mike Metzger is here. Dennis Rack. Here. Kevin Muldowney. Here. Jay Churchill.
Here.
Brandon Johnson.
Here.
Brad Walters.
Here.
Stephen Thorpe.
Here.
Let the record show there are 7 members present. We do have quorum. I'd like to entertain a motion for the approval of the July 26, 2022 minutes that you've previously received. Thank you, Jeanette.
Welcome.
Yeah, I have a motion by Kevin and a second by Dennis. We're going to have the Kevin Dennis team here working very hard today. Any further discussion, questions, comments? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain? Motion carried unanimously. Is Ashley Parslow present?
Here, Mike.
No?
No, she's here. She's in the back of the room.
I would like to introduce Ashley Parslow from the ABO office, and she's attending our meeting and was wondering if she would like to comment relative to the ongoing audit.
I can. I don't know
Sure.
if you can hear me here.
Oh, you can.
You can come up here
Thanks, Ashley. Yeah.
There's a seat
There's a
over
seat
there.
there,
Ashley.
or here.
Stand, I don't mind.
Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Ashley Parslow, Authority's Budget Office. I'm leading our team in the review of the Chautauqua County IDA, CRC, and Critic, and along with the partnership. We're still in our analytical process of reviewing documentation and following up with the IDA staff on any questions that we have. That process should last for another month or so, and then we'll get into report writing. And what we'll be doing as we go is sharing our initial observations, which we've done a little bit so far with Mark and Rich, and then just obviously just sharing in discussion any things that we're observing. And so they're aware, nothing's a surprise at the end. Just to give you a little bit of idea, we've been doing our work. The initial part of our work is just understanding how the IDA works. Because the IDA has multiple different parts, critic, partnership, it's a little more intensive. We're also trying to balance work in the office, work on site, kind of budgeting because of the distance. But the staff have been really great in follow-up and working through the phone and video to answer questions. And then we get into more of a reviewing documents that are being provided. And once that stage is done, we get into report writing, and then that draft is shared with management and the board for response. And then once we meet and discuss that final, that draft, make any revisions, it becomes final, and then it's posted on our website as public document. So it's just like a quick in a nutshell how it works and where we're at. But if you have any questions, I can answer them.
No, thank you, Ashley. We're looking forward to your report and your recommendations.
Great. All right. Well, thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you. Is PJ Wendell present?
Yeah. Say it, Mike.
Yeah, I would, at this time, I would like PJ Wendell, our county executive, much appreciated. You attending our meetings and the support that you provide and continue to provide the IDA. Is there anything you would like to say at this time?
No, I just again like to commend the group on what they do when you're looking at, over a dozen new businesses and new business opportunities coming to Chautauqua County. I think this is often overlooked by the community. They they always ask me, what's going on? We don't see anything. I'm like, you have no idea what's going on. I mean, there's so much. So again, just excited to see everything that comes before the board every meeting and the extensive work you all are doing around the clock and throughout the county. So on behalf of myself and the residents, thank you for all you do and keep up the good work.
Well, thank you for the kind words, and we appreciate it also. I'd now like to move to new business A, which is to be presented by Rosie and Millen.
Thank you, Mike. Today we have Martin New York CSG LLC, who's going to own and operate a 5 megawatt AC solar farm on approximately 29.5 acres in the town of Ripley, 5246 Route 76 to be specific. Total project cost is $8,687,350. We did speak with the town supervisor, Doug Bowen. He is in favor of the project. They have been granted their special use permit. The incentives that are being considered with this application is a 25-year pilot, which is a deviation for property tax abatement only. They are not in need of sales tax or mortgage reporting. Construction is estimated to begin in the spring of 2023 with energy generation expected in the fall of 2023. The town was lead agency, seeker was completed, and the town was, the conclusion was a negative declaration. I do have Catherine Shep, Tim Ahrens from Clean Choice Energy, and Zach Sherry from New Energy Equity here with us today. Would you guys like to discuss the project, provide a brief overview, touch on any site mitigation, and touch on the decommissioning bond?
Sure, I'd be happy. Thank you for your time today. We're really excited to move forward with this application. This project in Ripley, New York, we signed a lease for the property about 2 years ago and have been slowly developing it ever since. We chose this property because it has, it's nice and flat. It's a single landowner. And through our site design, we've been able to avoid all environmental issues, all wetlands, and it's naturally screened on multiple sides. So it doesn't disrupt the neighborhood character at all. There's no residences directly across the street from it, though we have proposed some tree screening along the road. And we've been cooperating nicely with the landowner the whole time. He's very excited to have a new use for his property as he's been struggling to get farming to work on the land for the past number of years. When we got our special use permit, and of the permit was putting a decommissioning security in place, which covers the full cost to remove the project and restore it at the end of the project's life. The exact amount was determined by the town of Ripley, so we cooperated with them on that. Hopefully that addresses your big looming questions, but we're here to answer any questions you have and look forward to speaking about it further.
Thank you, Catherine. Does anyone have any questions for Martin New York CSG? If not, I'll have Millen go ahead and discuss the resolution that we're going to present today to the board.
Sure. This is a now standard due diligence resolution. The only thing that it does is it authorizes the staff and council to start the due diligence process. And that would include looking at secret to make sure there's no adverse effects on the environment, negotiating the financial assistance, holding the public hearing, and as Rosie mentioned, probably holding the deviation notice once we agree on what the financial assistance would be by way of a pilot. And then wrapping all that up in a bow and coming back to the IDA for its formal approval and possibly secret resolution and possible deviation resolution. So again, this is just a due diligence resolution indicating that there's enough interest from the board to instruct us to go forward and investigate this a little bit more.
Thank you, Millen.
Thank you. Millen.
I had one question I wanted to ask Catherine. Catherine, can you tell us where you are with your interconnect with National Grid and how that's going and where are you in that process?
Yes, we have already completed the Caesar study and paid our first deposit. So we are now working on scheduling our construction meeting so they can see exactly where they need to put their interconnection poles prior to us doing our part of the construction. So we're all the way through the study process.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for being here. You shouldn't be disappointed that we don't have questions. But at this stage in the process, we've gone through well over 12 of these projects. So we appreciate you coming and your commitment to Chautauqua County. It's greatly appreciated. If there aren't any other questions, I'll entertain, I'll ask, let me ask Jay if he could please read new business A2.
Okay, A2, Resolution 0927-22-01, due diligence resolution and agreement.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Rhonda, thank you. Motion made by Jay, seconded by Rhonda. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please. Mike Metzger votes aye. Dennis Rack. Aye. Kevin Muldowney. Aye. Jay Churchill.
Aye.
Rhonda Johnson.
Aye.
Brad Walters.
Aye.
Stephen Thorpe.
Aye.
Let the record show, motion carried, 7 votes in the affirmative, motion carried unanimously. Thank you very much. We greatly appreciate your attention to Chautauqua County. So thank you.
Thank you.
What's your project?
You guys are welcome to stay on if you'd like, but if not, you're more than welcome to just disconnect from the meeting, and I will get a hold of you after.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rosie and Millen, for your work on this. Now we'll move to new business B, and Carol, please.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The resolution before you, B1, is the resolution for an LTAC loan, MKJM LLC, VA, the Landmark Restaurant on West 4th Street. We are here to approve a $250,000 working capital loan. This loan was approved at the January 26th meeting as a CARES Act loan. It was approved for $250,000 for leasehold improvements. It was approved for 2.44 for 10 years. We would like to approve this at this point, and the reason it did not close within the time frame is because of construction and materials not coming in. They just weren't able to finish their patio. So it definitely was COVID related. They were mandated to shut down. The purpose for the patio, they did have a patio there, but it was really in bad condition and extended seating due to COVID. So because we weren't able to close it at that time, we are now requesting that we do close this loan or approve this loan to be closed for $250,000 for the MKJM LLC Landmark Restaurant for 10 years at the 2.44%. The loan is going to be secured by a subordinate lien position on all accounts receivable, furniture, fixtures, machinery, equipment, and inventory and all assets of the company. Keyman Life Insurance on Patricia Sente, who is the owner and runs a restaurant, in the amount of the loan and also her unlimited personal guarantee. So it's pretty straightforward. They were losing all their operating revenue, and we are just, we can take this out of the LTAC fund now at the same rate for the same years.
Yeah, just to follow up, by June 30th, we had to close all of our CARES Act loans that we made with no bank participation, no owner equity, none of that. When that expired, that time frame, we couldn't fund it because they weren't done. So we're just moving it over to the All-Tech loan, which, as Carol said, it's been defederalized. So it's the exact same terms, exact same approval. And it is absolutely gorgeous, isn't it, Carol? I mean,
It's beautiful.
it is. I
don't
encourage
know.
everybody to get up there and look.
I was gonna comment. I had dinner there last week, so it's beautiful. It really
They
is.
did a great job at
Few fine touches and they're done.
and a lot more seats outside, yeah.
Rich, if you could.
So any other questions? Thank you, Rich.
Just, Rich, if you could further clarify how we're able to do this now within the All-Tech loan since it's been defederalized.
Well, because it's been defederalized, Mike, we can, you know, we don't need to follow those rules again, you know, we can. Anything it was an EDA purpose is allowable if we wanted to spend the money on some infrastructure or do whatever, just so it's an allowable EDA expense. So we can vary from the plan that we had adopted. And that plan, as of June 30th, flipped over and became the plan for the CARES Act. So the new $10 million, we're operating under the same plan as the All-Tech, but the All-Tech plan, we have a lot more flexibility now since it's been defederalized.
Thank you. Are there any further questions of Karen? Hearing none, Rhonda, if you could please move new business B1.
Yes. Resolution 09-27-22-02 of the members of County of Chautauqua Industrial Development Agency to approve an All-Tech loan to MKJM LLC doing business as the Landmark.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Second. Motion made by Rhonda, seconded by Kevin. Is there any further discussion? Roll call vote, please. Mike Metzger votes aye. Dennis Rath. Aye. Kevin Muldowney. Aye. Jay Churchill.
Aye.
Rhonda Johnson.
Aye.
Brad Walters.
Aye.
Stephen Thorpe.
Aye.
Let the record show 7 votes in the affirmative. Motion carried unanimously. Thanks, Carol, for your hard work on this one.
Oh, you're welcome.
And also, we're going to have you address new business C, please.
Okay, thank you. The resolution before you, C, resolution 1, is this is also an LTEC request for $218,900. A term of 7 years at 4% interest. This was presented to the Loan Review Committee in September. The Loan Review Committee did recommend it. It's an LTEC revolving loan fund for Lexington Machining LLC. This loan is actually, it's under an equipment loan for, for the $218,009 for 2 air vac units. And the reason they are installing these 2 air vac units is to get the facility up for manufacturing. If you're familiar with the building, it's Lexington Machining on Winchester Road. It's been vacant for a long time, 10 years. In 2014, there was they had leased it out. There was a lease that broke. And now Bush has been in there. I think maybe they've been in there for a few years now. They are leasing 59% of the building. Bush is excited about them getting this ready for manufacturing. They're very happy there. They're on a month-to-month lease, but right now they're very happy with their lease, and they would like to get eventually on a permanent lease. And this will help Bush plus any other leasee that will come forward, because the building is not really ready for manufacturing, and this will help. And I should mention that the company, Lexington Machining, has put about $1 million in there so far. They're very serious about this. They've put new lighting in, new roofing, new units, a couple of doors, freight doors. And so they're they're very adamant about keeping this building and leasing it out at this point. So it's a 7-year term at 4%. It's 4% interest. It's an LTEC loan that goes along with our equipment. And they're very excited. They've put equity in here. I think y'all got a loan package, so I guess I'll open it up for questions. If I haven't said enough.
I just say that the property has some environmental issues. There's no active remediation going on, but there is a lot of active monitoring and reporting yearly. And that has scared away a few buyers from Lexington. Some people, once they looked at that, they walked away. So I'm excited about Lexington investing money in here, taking this, what was basically warehouse space, and now it'll be good manufacturing space. And, even if Bush decides not to continue there, and we hope they will, but if they don't, it'll be available for somebody else. So I think it's a good move for the county. Yep.
Do we have any liability with environmental issues?
Want to address that?
The short answer is no. We're not operating the property. We are taking a mortgage on it, but
Correct.
since there's no lease back, we're not in direct line of title. So there should not be. And apparently, if there's no ongoing remediation, then there's no, as I understand it, no active environmental problems. But
Yeah,
so
and-
as long as we just take a mortgage, we're fine.
And it is under a site management plan right now. And I should mention, we are, Liz, thank you, Mel, as Millen said, we are taking a first lien mortgage position on the real estate. That's free and clear, an assignment of rents. And we also have a corporate guarantee of Lexington Machining LLC, company in Rochester, which is very profitable. Their financials were looked at, and they're very well balanced to handle the loan. We also are asking for a waiver of personal guarantees and life insurance assignment because of the way the company is structured. It's a Lubia partnership, and there's quite a few members there, each having a little bit of a
One more time
percentage.
in response to what you said, Jay, as opposed to the Altech loans, when we do a traditional pilot and the IDA is in title lease in, lease out, we do more environmental due diligence. We typically get in a phase 1 report, we look at SECRA, et cetera. So we are, I don't say more careful, but there's more documentation when the IDA is actually in title as opposed to here where we're just making a loan, just like a bank would.
Yeah,
Okay.
but the reason I'm somewhat familiar with it because we kind of walked away from it a few years ago when my son was looking for a larger.
I remember that.
And I think I might have been the one that said, I don't like the environmental, so I made him afraid, I think.
Well, you were among a few others as well.
Yeah.
I went as far as to have the
Reasonable.
DEC, and this was the first time they ever did this. They were on the phone with a potential buyer. And even they said, this is not a bad site. We're just monitoring it but it scares everybody.
Yeah.
So again, we're happy they're going to invest
Yeah.
and not just let it rot, because if they wouldn't have put that new roof on 4 or 5 years ago for the $1 million, place would be like back here in Frewsburg.
Yeah.
We don't want that, so.
Okay, any other questions from Carol? All right, good discussion. I would ask Brad if you could please move new business C1.
Resolution 0927-2203 of the members of the County of Chautauqua Industrial Development Agency to approve an Altech loan to Lexington Machining LLC.
Thank you. I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. Motion made by Brad, seconded by Dennis. Any further discussion? Roll call vote. Mike Metzger votes aye. Dennis Rack. Aye. Kevin Muldowney. Aye. Jay Churchill.
Aye.
Roger Johnson.
Aye.
Brad Walker.
Aye.
Stephen Thorpe.
Aye.
Let the record show 7 votes in the affirmative. Motion carried unanimously. Carol, you're doing half the meeting.
Okay. No, there's a lot more. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. C1, the resolution, there will be two resolutions. I will talk a little bit about the project and then Millen explain it. There'll be a deviation hearing in front of you and an approving authorizing resolution, which authorizes the project and also the seeker. The seeker is this is Omni Solar Portland LLC. Peter, the project operator, or the executive, one of the executives of Omni Solar LLC, is not here today, but Peter has spoke on this project. This is their third project in Chautauqua County. This one's located at 75 Central Street, or excuse me, 7820 Felton Street in the town of Portland. Richard Lewis is the supervisor. The town of Portland is very much in favor of this. They have approved this project and they were lead agency and approved the seeker. It's at just a meeting 2 months ago. So this is a 5 megawatt solar farm located again at 7820 Felton Road in the town of Portland. It's on 32.67 acres, a total project cost of $5,045,000, including construction, site work, equipment, and machinery. They have a strong equity investment of $1,513,000, and they've also obtained a private loan. They are coming to us to approve a tax lease pilot for 25 years. There is going to be a estimated sales tax incentive of $403,000, a mortgage tax benefit of $44,150, and a property tax savings of $3,134,593. It's located in Westfield School District. They have 20 construction jobs immediately, 1 part-time laborer throughout the life of the project. And let's see, there's a host community benefit, local state taxes, lease payments to a landowner. The cost benefit analysis is in your handout. Their timeline, they're beginning December 2022, but it's more likely early 2023. And then I mentioned that the town was lead agency. The town has also approved their decommission plan. The property will be restored to its original condition. Our milestones, we approved the due diligence resolution in April. Had the public hearing May 17th. There were no negative comments from the public. And the deviation hearing will take place today and a resolution to authorize the negative deck. And if there are no further questions, I'll hand it over to Millen to explain the resolutions.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, the first thing is the deviation hearing. Notice of this meeting was sent to the county, town, and school on August 18th, advising them of this meeting. As I understand it, no written comments have been received. The proposed pilot, as Carol outlined, is $3,800 per megawatt, and the term with 2% annual inflators thereafter for a 25-year term. That's sort of become very standard for a lot of the solar projects that you are doing. So we've not received any written comments. So at this time, I would ask if there are any comments from any of the affected tax jurisdictions. Hearing none, I close the deviation hearing, and the 2 resolutions before you are a deviation resolution. And as you just heard, there have been no comments one way or another from any of the affected tax jurisdictions. So the first to be the approval to deviate from your UTEP. Although again, for solar, this becomes sort of, close to very common. The second is the final approving resolution. As Carol mentioned, we've done due diligence, held the public hearing, reached out to the town, Again, the town was the lead agency and they issued a negative declaration. So there's no separate secret resolution, but the final approving resolution references and acknowledges that the town was lead agency and they took their action. So those are the two resolutions. Again, this is from Omni, and you probably were familiar. We probably approved 2 or 3 others for them. And the documents have been drafted and we hope to close, the next couple of months or so.
Excellent. Thank you both, Carol and Nolan, for your hard work and effort. And yes, you've done many Omni projects and very much looking forward to this project. I'd like to entertain the 2 resolutions as one motion. And Stephen, if you could please move new business D2.
Sure. Resolution 09272204, deviation approval resolution, and resolution 09272205, the approving resolution for Omni Portland Solar.
Thank you, Stephen. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made by Stephen, seconded by Jay. Any further discussion? Roll call, please. Mike Metzger votes aye. Dennis Rath.
Aye.
Kevin Muldowney.
Aye.
Jay Churchill.
Aye.
Rhonda Johnson.
Aye.
Rhonda Johnson, I'm sorry.
She said aye.
Oh,
Mike.
thank you. Brad Walters,
Aye.
Stephen Thorpe.
Aye.
Let the record show 7 votes in the affirmative. Motion carried unanimously. And I have to apologize for my hard of hearing. So sorry for that. Let's go to new business E, presented by Mark and Rich.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll start out and Rich can fill in the blanks if need be. So this resolution amends a prior approval that this board made regarding 42 Lake Erie LLC. In October of 2021, this board approved a loan for $1,429,450. And you recall, we've talked about this several times. This is where the Hideaway Bay restaurant used to be. We worked for years trying to find a developer for that. This group came in, proposed something that we all were excited about. So as they were working through the project and really nailing down the cost, they determined that the cost would increase by about $250,000. So they're putting in additional equity themselves, and they're asking for the IDA and the bank to split the difference. Again, this is for high-end glamping. It's also going to be a recreation resort. It's on about 3.5 acres of land, and it's going to have 10 waterfront cabins. We did review this with the loan committee, and the loan committee recommended approval of this. There was we revisited some of the guarantees, but at the end of the day, the loan committee is recommending this for approval. So I don't know if anyone has any questions. If you want to add anything, Rich?
Did a great job. Ends up being $63,000 more. We're
Yeah,
putting in.
$63,000.
Along the bank's putting in 63, and then the owners are putting in another 125 in equity. So it's a good deal.
I would also point out, last year, the IDA approved a pilot, a straight lease transaction with them, and that's been pending as well, with all these cost increases and now this proposal. So I think we're optimistic that if the board approves this change, that all of it can close at the same time.
I should also add that the loan purpose is for real estate acquisition and development. Now that they received a $450 Office of Community Renewal grant as well.
We're looking forward to the project. And thank you for negotiating and moving this forward. Are there any questions of Mark or Rich? Hearing none, Dennis, if you could please move new business E1.
Resolution 09-27-22-06. Altech revolving loan fund amending resolution.
Thank you. I have a motion. Do I have a second? Motion by Dennis, seconded by Kevin. Any further discussion? Roll call. Mike Metzger votes aye. Dennis Rack.
Aye.
Kevin Muldowney.
Aye.
Jay Churchill.
Aye.
Rhonda Johnson.
Aye.
Fred Walters.
Aye.
Stephen Thorpe.
Aye.
Let the record show 7 votes in the affirmative. Motion carried unanimous. Well, no one can say that we don't have a very, in our projects, we've got restaurants, we've got hideaways, solar arrays, another landmark coming up, which is, I'll ask Mark and Rich to identify with new business app, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The White Inn, this has been a labor of love, if you will. 4 years in the making to get to this point where we, that White Inn sat vacant for 4 years. We worked very hard to find a developer. We found a local developer who's going to do the right thing. He's looking at around a $3.9 million investment in the White Inn to bring it back to its former glory with the restaurant, the hotel rooms, and the ballroom, if you will. And so we are looking at here, and Millen will talk about it, but a deviation hearing because the pilot really will result in the tax, what they're currently paying in taxes will be what they pay in the pilot. And they will be requesting sales tax exemption, mortgage recording tax exemptions. This project has a really good cost benefit too, I might want to add. We do our cost benefit analysis and the value or the cost, if you will, in other words, the value of the incentives over 10 years ends up being about $370,000. And when you take into account all the benefits from job creation, et cetera, it ends up being a 22-to-1 benefit to cost ratio. So it's a really great project. I can't tell you how many people have called me, talked to me about how excited they are to bring that White Inn back. And, it's right in downtown Fredonia. It's really intricate to the college and recruitment and the downtown viability. So this is a great project.
The only thing I'll add, Mr. Chairman, is that Mark and Nate have worked effortlessly. I mean, just hours and hours and hours for years to try. How many developers they've gone through and RFPs for developers and everything. And I commend them. They stuck to it. And we end up with a great local guy who has the wherewithal to make this happen. So it's an exciting project. Congratulations. There's a lot of work.
Yeah, well, a lot to Nate, and Nate's really worked hard on this, and also Hannah Realty, Paul Blanchard and David Dorr from Hannah Realty. They worked really hard too. So.
Yes, many thanks to Nate's here. So thank you, Nate, and Mark and everyone for this is transformational. It's extremely strategic in the village of Fredonia. And it was essential that this remain as a bed and breakfast and as a local establishment. So can't thank you enough for all your hard work and effort. Great job. Miller, would you like to conduct a deviation here?
Yes, happy to. First, I'll point out that we held a transactions committee because the developer is very anxious to move this project forward. So we held that a couple weeks ago. And the transaction committee unanimously recommended to bring it to the board. So this is a little bit out of sync with what you're used to, which is a preliminary due diligence resolution. Then we do the due diligence and come back to you. But given the high profile nature of this project and the developer's urgency to start it before it starts getting cold, we did it that way. All perfectly legal, but it's just sort of the way that a little bit out of sync with the way that we typically do it. As Mark mentioned, the pilot is going to be for 10 years, and it's going to be a fixed set amount, $16,015. Notice was sent to all the affected tax jurisdictions on September 15th, and my understanding is that we've not received any written comments. So at this point, I'd like to open the deviation hearing and ask if any members of any representatives of the affected tax jurisdictions have any comments one way or another on the proposed deviation. Hearing none, we will close the deviation hearing. Since this is interior renovation, it's considered a type 2 action under SECRA. Therefore, the approving resolution makes reference to that, but there's no separate SECRA resolution, as you often find. I will note that since this is a hotel, it is not clear, quite honestly, whether or not this is retail sales. Remember, there's restrictions on IDAs doing retail sales. So the resolution finds that it's not a retail sale, but even if it is, this is clearly a tourism destination. It is expected that a significant number of guests will come from outside the economic development area, and the resolution concludes that as well. As Mark says, we are contemplating an exemption from real property taxes having a value of $166,230, mortgage recording tax and maximum of $40,000, exemption from sales and use tax in the maximum of $180,000. Again, we've held the public hearing, no comments were received, and this is, I think, ready for final approval.
I would just add, Millen, that Mark has spent a lot of time talking to the village and the elected officials about this, and they are extremely excited about the fact that we could get this done for them, so.
Excellent work. Any questions of Millen, Mark, or Rich? Dave, would you like to comment on this project since you were instrumental?
No, long time in the making. We're extremely excited. Still looking to support Steve and Devin with some additional grants going forward, but confident that it's going to be a success story.
Excellent.
Stevie, show.
I would like to move as entertain these as one motion, the two resolutions, and I'll ask Kevin if you could please move F2.
Deviation resolution 09-27-22-07 and the final authorizing resolution 09-27-22-08 ENS Boydian LLC.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second? Second. Motion made by Kevin, seconded by Dennis. Any further discussion? Roll call, please. Mike Metzger votes aye. Dennis Rath.
Aye.
Kevin Muldowney.
Aye.
Jay Churchill.
Aye.
Rhonda Johnson.
Aye.
Brad Walters.
Aye.
Stephen Thorpe.
Aye.
Let the record show 7 votes in the affirmative. Motion carried unanimous.
Oh, no.
Brad abstained.
Oh, I'm sorry. Brad abstained. Okay, I'm sorry. Let me correct that. 6 votes in the affirmative, 1 abstention, motion carried.
Probably a good time to point out while Mike is making all these mistakes. This is the best seat in the house right here where I have it. So for those that are here, it's very good. So Mike, while you're going through these snafus, you can look out between Rhonda and Steve and see Carl Reiner, Johnny Carson, and Betty White. It's a really good scene. So carry on, Mike, carry on.
Well, thank you, Greg. Much appreciated. And Kevin said that it's a good thing you're paying attention. Let's move to new business G, and I should use our hearing center at the college to correct my problem. New business G, please.
Yes, so today we have another solar project by Cinta Solar LLC. And we have Adam Rolls with us here, who's going to talk about the project, so I'll be brief. But this is a 5 megawatt AC on 26 acres in the town of Stockton. We have worked, the town of Stockton was formed a seeker. We were not listed as an involved agency, so we won't end up doing our own. It's a 25-year pilot's been talked about. And what we have in front of us here is a due diligence resolution. But before we get to the resolution, I'd like to have Adam say a few words about the project. And if you could talk about any mitigation that was done for aesthetics and any decommissioning bonds or things that the town required, that would be helpful. So Adam, it's all yours.
Absolutely. Good morning, everybody. My name is Adam Rolls. I'm a project developer for Saturn Power, product developer for Cinta Solar LLC. I'll preface this presentation just in interest of time. I believe I'm also on the agenda to discuss Schofield Solar LLC as well, another project that we're proposing within the town of Pomfret. And I had actually created my presentation sort of centered around both projects.
That's fine, Adam. That's fine.
Okay, thank you. So as long as you can see what I'm presenting here, I'll roll forward. So Saturn Power, this is our third and fourth projects that we are developing in Chautauqua County. The first two projects were the Rack 1 and Rack 2 projects that we had presented last year. So I'll glaze over these details. Saturn Power, we're a Canadian renewable energy developer specializing in mid-sized solar and energy storage projects for privately owned. And we have a very large pipeline of over 500 megawatts in design and operating experience. I'll dive right into these projects. The Cinta Solar project is located within the town of Stockton on South Stockton Casadega Road. It's a 5 megawatt AC project, 6.5 megawatts DC. We've currently achieved and received our special use permit, seeker negative declaration, and site plan approval, and a zoning variance for the setbacks for this project. We've also had a decommissioning estimate and bond accepted from the town as well, to the tune of, I believe, $180,000. To anticipate any interconnection related questions, we have completed the 25 and 75% payments to the utility, in addition to some cost sharing payments that's meant to split substation related costs amongst other projects on the system. And we're preparing to submit final ICF drawings to National Grid to begin the planning for interconnecting the project. I glazed over the permitting details as well. Other details are, we've received our no effect letters from U.S. Fish and Wildlife and the State Historic Preservation Office as well. So we've done their due diligence. On Schofield Solar as well, this project is a 5 megawatt, 6.5 megawatt AC and DC project located within the town of Pomfret. I'd found this property actually back in 2019. We've been trying to get this project interconnected for quite some time now. There were some wind projects over in Portland that had the space. They got removed from the queue last year, and we were informed that we would be able to proceed. Then we immediately proceeded to the town of Pomfret to receive our approvals of special use permit, secret negative declaration, site plan approval, and another setback variance with the neighbor to the east, which we received all of those. First payment for interconnection was paid in December 2021. Second payment was paid in June 2022. And this project, like the Cinta Solar project, is currently waiting submission of final ICF drawings to National Grid to begin the interconnection schedule. So from here, we're planning to construct these projects starting in the fall of 2023, equipment procurement depending, with achieved commercial operation in the spring of 2024. And in anticipation of some of the questions that we're going to receive, we have a screening plan for both of these projects. The Cinta project was allowed a bit of a later screening plan given how remote the project is within the town of Stockton. Its location on South Stockton Casadega Road, which is a very low traffic road. But we have gone and screened the project from the landowner here. For the Schofield project, another flat site, 110 acre site. I like to joke you can watch your dog run away for 4 days. And we've screened along the road here, and as well as screened from the neighbor to the east. And that concludes my presentation at the moment. I'll take any other questions.
Adam, we appreciate you continuing to add your projects in the Chautauqua County. I'm going to ask you, how do you find doing business in Chautauqua County?
How do I find doing business in Chautauqua County? Well, the fact that I can show up to meetings, people take my business seriously, and the laws in Chautauqua County with most of these municipalities are reasonable. I think doing business in Chautauqua County is straightforward, and that's probably the biggest compliment a solar developer can give at the moment. There is definitely counties that I'm doing business in that are making it a lot harder, and the municipalities that we're pushing logical projects forward aren't really responding logically to them. So I'd say doing business in Chautauqua County is probably, it's one of the best counties to do business in New York State at the moment for solar.
Thank you, and we hope that you have many more projects in Chautauqua County.
I would love, sorry to interrupt, I would love to develop more projects in Chautauqua County, provided that there's the capacity to be able to host more.
Yeah, to that point, Mike, National Grid held a meeting here yesterday in this very boardroom, and they invited a lot of the local officials from the towns to talk about that very thing. We are coming up quickly to the constraint area on the grid. Yeah. So even with improvements that they're planning to make, the end will come soon for the amount of solar that we will be able to, or wind, to interconnect particularly to the 115 lines. Now, the huge Ripley project connects to the larger line that runs along the thruway. And it's not only Chautauqua County that's affected by this, but it's Cat County, where we're all like in the same area. So the end is coming for these. So I'm glad that we can get them in. And as you said, Adam, with the towns, it's a win for the landowners. It's a win for the taxing jurisdictions. And so I think the towns have taken it very seriously, and they realize what it means to the people in their towns. So.
Right. And at the end of the day, it's all about relationship building with these towns too. A lot of the projects, like the Cinta project in the town of Stockton, we were one of the first solar developers to sort of grace the town with the project. So, I mean, a lot of the work wasn't really, proving that the project was logical. It was more or less educating them on what we're bringing to town and the benefits that they could reap from hosting one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions of that?
Millen, you want to talk about the resolution?
Happy to. There are two resolutions, one for each project. They are, again, due diligence resolutions authorizing and instructing staff and council to start the due diligence process. So as was mentioned, the town has done their own secret, but the IDA was not listed as an involved agency. So we'll have to do our own secret analysis, taking a hard look at the environmental impacts. I have no reason to think we're going to come to a different conclusion, but the law requires us to do that on our own. We would hold a public hearing and negotiate a pilot and raise any other issues that the board or staff has with the developer. And if all that goes well, we would come back to the board for final, probably a deviation hearing and final approval and seek a resolution in, a month or two.
Understood.
Any other
That's it.
questions of Adam or Millen? Like to take, if Jay, if you could please move new business GA.
Resolution 09272209, due diligence resolution and agreement, Cintas Solar LLC.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion's been made by Jay, seconded by Stephen. Any further discussion? Roll call, please. Mike Metzger votes aye. Dennis Rack.
Aye.
Kevin Muldowney.
Aye.
Jay Churchill.
Aye.
Rhonda Johnson.
Aye.
Brad Walters.
Aye.
Stephen Thorpe.
Aye.
Let the record show 7 votes in the affirmative. Motion carried unanimously. Rhonda, if you could please move new business HA, please.
Sure. Resolution 09-27-22-10, due diligence resolution and agreement, Schofield Solar LLC.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
A motion made by Rhonda, seconded by Jay. Any further discussion? Roll call, please. Mike Metzger, aye. Dennis Rack.
Aye.
Kevin Muldowney.
Aye.
Jay Churchill.
Aye.
Rhonda Johnson.
Aye.
Brad Walters.
Aye.
Stephen Thorpe.
Aye.
Let the record show 7 votes in the affirmative. Motion carried unanimously. And thank you, Adam, for all you've done for Chautauqua County, and wish you well in your future project.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members, and thanks to everyone for having me.
Thank you. Now I'd like to go to Rosie and Millen for new business I, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Back in June, we had a transaction committee approving the due diligence resolution and agreement for Maystag LLC doing business as the barn at Farrington Hollow. We also had the public hearing, and then the board meeting. At the board meeting, the board approved a final approving resolution for Maystag LLC doing business as the barn at Farrington Hollow. Just to remind you, that was a pilot for the construction of a 4,000 square foot and 2,000 barn and a 2,000 square foot pavilion, which would accommodate weddings and other events in Cherry Creek. Maystag is located at 7495 Farrington Hollow Road in Cherry Creek, New York. In addition to the barn at Farrington Hollow, they have the cabins at Farrington Hollow, the Farrington Hollow Market, Farm and Market, and they also now have the inn at Farrington Hollow. They're coming back to the board today for an amendment to the original application to include the inn. Millen looked at it, we did the savings, and the original savings to the new savings did not increase by 100,000. So we were not required to hold a second public hearing. So this pilot would cover property tax, sales tax abatement, and they are also now requesting a mortgage recording tax abatement, which they do understand that particular benefit needs to be used within 12 months, should they request it. If not, they need to submit and this is a 15-year pilot, not a deviation, as this is a tourism pilot. Construction began in the spring of 2022 with the barn, and now the inn. Everything is expected to be completed in the spring of 2024. And again, the addition of the inn is so that they can renovate the inn. The inn would serve as accommodations for outside visitors, but its main purpose is to serve the barn so that if there's wedding parties that need to get ready or stay, that's where they would be located, in addition to any cabins they rent on the property. Is there any questions before I pass this on to Millen? Millen, if you don't mind, I'll have you discuss the resolution that's being presented to the board.
Happy to. This is amending the prior resolution to both add the inn to the project description and increase the financial assistance by, as Rosie said, the amounts are in your resolution, but it's under $100,000. Therefore, we don't need a new public hearing. Since this is interior renovation of the inn, it is a type 2 action under secret. So no separate resolution is required for that. As you will recall, same discussion from earlier, this is an inn, which may or may not be retail sales. The law is not exactly clear. When we approved this originally, we approved it under the exception for retail sales, even if it applies, as goods or services not readily available in the community. And that requires the county executive to approve that. So this resolution will also be subject to the subsequent approval by the county executive to amend the project description. And other than that, it's an approving resolution, and I think that they are ready to go. The documents have been drafted, and if things go well today, I think that we would close very shortly.
And just to quickly touch on the original project cost was slated at $589,000. New total project cost with the consideration of the inn is now $765,000. And as Millen discussed, the pilot saving or project savings was originally $209,741. Total increase of $45,278 to a total pilot savings of $255,019.
Thank you. Any questions of Rosie or Millen? I remember on the call at the transactions committee meeting that the principal had to leave to go feed the chickens. They were very.
Yes.
She was a busy lady, Mike, no doubt about it. She was very busy. She had to go feed the chicken. Yep.
Very busy and very hands-on.
Yep.
I'll entertain, if I could please ask Brad to move new business I-1.
Resolution 0927-2211. Nesteg LLC, DBA The Barn at Farrington Hollow.
Thank you. Have a motion by Brad. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Stephen. Any further discussion? Roll call. Mike Metzger votes aye. Dennis Rack.
Aye.
Kevin Muldowney.
Aye.
Jay Churchill.
Aye.
Rhonda Johnson.
Aye.
Brad Walters.
Aye.
Stephen Thorpe.
Aye.
Let the record show 7 votes in the affirmative. Motion carried unanimous. Now, Mark and Millen, new business Jay, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This resolution is a consent resolution, which will allow the IDA to enter into a contract with ECC Technologies, Inc., which is a Rochester-based company that specializes in broadband and broadband consulting. If you recall, the IDA approved the acceptance of funding through the ARPA monies from the county to manage this project. And I'm going to go back. The county received $24.6 million in American Rescue Plan Act funding. Under the county executive's direction, we identified 43 priority projects. The legislature approved those. One of those projects was $2.5 million for the expansion of broadband to unserved and underserved communities. We recognized internally, we didn't really have the skill set, the idea of being able to not only roll out a process whereby we get the most bang for the buck, but also leverage that $2.5 million. So we developed an RFP, we put it out, we got 4 responses. We had a committee that reviewed those, and we unanimous, and the county executive was part of that as well. We unanimously approved ECC Technologies. So this resolution allows the IDA to enter into a contract with ECC Technologies for an amount not to exceed $110,000. $60,000 would be for non-grant writing work, and the other $50,000 not to exceed $50,000 for grant writing. So it's $110,000 total contract with ECC.
I guess I would add to that, the costs of this have been upfronted by the ARPA money, so there's no out-of-pocket to the agency. Since this is planning, it is a type 2 action under seeker, and your resolution includes that. And there's also a finding in the resolution that this is part of your mission and purpose. Economic development in the county is very dependent on available widespread broadband services. So it is part of what the IDA does and should be doing.
Thank you. Any questions of Mark or Noah? Hearing none, I'll ask Stephen if you could please move new business J1.
Resolution 09272212 broadband consent resolution.
Thank you. I have a motion. Do I have a second? Motion made by Stephen, seconded by Dennis. Any further discussion? Roll call. Mike Metzger votes aye. Dennis Rath.
Aye.
Kevin Muldowney.
Aye.
Jay Churchill.
Aye.
Rhonda Johnson.
Aye.
Brad Walters.
Aye.
Stephen Thorpe. Let the record show 7 votes in the affirmative. Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Acknowledgement of fiduciary duties by CCIDA board members.
Yes, I'll take this one, and then if Millen wants to add anything. So annually, the board is required to sign this acknowledgement of fiduciary duties and responsibilities form. And I'm going to read from this. As a member of the authority's board of directors, I understand that I have a fiduciary obligation to perform my duties and responsibilities to the best of my abilities in good faith and with proper diligence and care, consistent with the enabling statute, mission, and bylaws of the authority and the laws of New York State. The requirements set forth in this acknowledgement are based on the provisions of New York State law, including but not limited to Public Authorities Reform Act of 2009, Public Officers Law, and General Municipal Law. And then it goes on, talks about the mission statement, deliberation, confidentiality, and conflict of interest. But each of the board members needs to sign one of these. I believe we have hard copies here. We have hard copies at the other end for everyone to sign. So if you could please do that, we'd appreciate it.
I think it's straightforward. This is different than the financial disclosure. This is just acknowledging that you have a fiduciary duty to the board and therefore to the taxpayers of the county. Straightforward. I think everyone's seen it before.
And Jeanette has everybody signed them. So
Okay.
for next year, though, we'll just
Do
explain.
we have fiduciary insurance? And every other board I sat on has got fiduciary responsibility. Here's a policy. I
Directors and officers insurance?
We have DNO, yes.
Yes.
don't think it's the same as fiduciary.
I'll check it out, Brad. That's a new one to me. I will check that out.
Okay, that's all, just a statement.
And I'll send an email to everybody.
Thank you, Rich. Any other questions? Oh, Rich, yours. Okay, let's move to the executive director's report. Mark, please.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, so we have some not great news because really 2 of our members who have been talking about this for quite some time are resigning their positions. One is Hans Auer and one is Dennis Rack. And I have the resignation letters in front of me. I'd like to read those. I will mention that Hans Auer's resignation He wanted to become effective as of August 30th, so he really has not been involved in signing checks, et cetera, since then. Whereas Dennis's takes effect October 1st. Dennis, can I just ask you, are you planning on coming to the next meeting? Because I'd like to acknowledge you more at the next meeting. But I did want to mention it now because we do actually have a replacement for Dennis, because we had gotten his letter prior with kind of a 2 months out that he would serve. And she's going to be, her name is Sagan Sheffield Smith from Lakewood. And she's going to be hopefully approved by the legislature at tomorrow night's legislature meeting. And she's a really bright young woman, but she's going to take Dennis's place. And we'll accept his resignation, I'm thinking, at the next meeting, and approve her on the board. Meanwhile, we are looking for a replacement for Hans, and we have some ideas. We talked to some people, so we're excited about that as well. But again, I want to read Hans's resignation letter if that's okay. So it's August 30th, 2022. It says, "Dear Mark, over the last 13 years, it has been my honor and privilege to serve as a member of the Board of Directors for the Chautauqua County Industrial Development Agency and Chautauqua Region Economic Development Corporation. After much consideration, I have decided to resign my position as board member to allow more time to focus on my family and career. Looking back on my time as a board member, I am reminded of the countless stakeholders in our county who have directly benefited from the tireless efforts of you and your team at the CCIDA. I am grateful to have had the opportunity to contribute in a small way to help make Chautauqua County a better place to work, live, and visit. I am confident that the important work of the CCIDA will continue to play a vital role in improving the quality of life in our communities. Wishing you and your team continued success in the future. Best regards, Hans Auer." So I believe we have to, I don't know if we have to make a motion to approve his resignation, or is that?
I don't think we need an approving resolution. He stays on until his replacement is here, but obviously he's sort of stepped away from everything with the board. And the same thing will be true with Dennis. His resignation becomes effective when his successor is appointed and confirmed.
Okay. So do we want to wait till the next meeting with Dennis? Dennis, are you going to be on, or would you like us to do that right now?
He could do one more, Dennis. Come on.
I think that's one of the problems is that's when I start to travel quite a bit here at the end of October and November. I'm gone a big chunk of that time frame. So we might have to do it now.
Okay, fair enough. Now, this is short and sweet. Now, and I didn't look back. Dennis, when did you start serving on the IDA board?
Well, I don't know the year, but Frank Pagano was the chairman and Mark Thomas was the county executive and Rich Alexander was the IDA director. That gives you any clue.
Over 20 years.
Yeah.
Yep, over 20 years. And it's been great. This is August 2nd, 2022. Dear Mr. Geis and Mr. Dixon, it has been a pleasure to serve on the CCIDA board for the past several years. I have learned a great deal and enjoyed working with you both. Unfortunately, I am no longer able to offer the time commitment needed, so please let this letter serve as notice of my resignation from the board effective October 1st, 2022. Sincerely, Dennis Rack.
And I ditto Hans's comments. I mean, it has been gratifying and I certainly can see many of the things that this board has done that have positively affected the community. But, I'm starting to get long in the tooth and my wife is bugging me to do more travel and do things. And and the Wells Board commitments and things that I have take quite a bit more time. And so something's got to go, and I've been doing this for 20 years. So unfortunately, this is one that I decided to let go for now.
Well, being on board for both of their tenures, I can't thank them enough for all their hard work and effort. And I hope we can recognize them properly at the Christmas party this year and give them the proper recognition that they both deserve. But I can't thank Hans and Dennis enough for all their hard work and effort over many years to ensure that this county's economic development continues to move forward. And they dealt with a lot of difficult issues in the early years, as you remember, and can't thank them enough for their steadfastness, and staying through and holding to their economic principles and making sure that we move forward. So can't thank both of them enough, and you will be sorely missed.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there
Okay.
anything
Yeah, I
else
got a couple
you
other
have to
things.
report?
Yeah, a couple other things real quick. On the Partnership for Economic Growth front, I wanted to let the board know that we're working on a program project, if you will, with the and it has to do with trail partner collaboration. There's a lot of different trail groups out there that are sort of have been kind of doing their own thing for many years. We did a Greenway plan a number of years ago, actually in 2013. And one of the recommendations is how do we get everyone working together so we can sort of leverage our collective voice, raise funding, and work collaboratively to do the things that need to be done. So as we're thinking about, what does that look like? What does that organization look like? We sought and secured a $25,000 grant from the Sheldon Foundation to do a study of what makes the most sense. Is it a new 501c3? Should it be something that's under the umbrella of Rails to Trails or the Partnership for Economic Growth? So Camoin Associates, we hired them. They've done a bunch of other work for us and done work throughout the country. Actually, they're great. And to look at that and what makes sense. Our ultimate goal is to really establish Chautauqua County as a mecca for outdoor recreation and active living. We have all the components, we have all the assets. How do we do that? And how do we tell our story? We're trying to attract talent. We're trying to bring more visitors here. So I just wanted this board to know that Camoin is considering that being sort of under the umbrella, if you will, of the Partnership for Economic Growth. It's looking like that may happen, so that the Friends of the Greenways would be an organization that supports these trail groups and seeking funding and helping manage that funding. And so I'm giving you a heads up that it's likely, more likely than not, that they're going to recommend it, that it be housed under the partnership. So I wanted to bring that to your attention. More to come. And I guess the last two things I believe are, so what we're finding out is that these solar farms are sort of being queued up and then sold. And, we believe that that's going to be the trend. And so we have really three projects that have changed ownership. And we don't really need any action, as I understand it. I just want to bring it to your attention. We have Hanover PV LLC that we had approved in July of 2022 that was sold to GSRP Development Company 13 LLC. And then we have Rack 1 and Rack 2 Solar that were approved in July of 2022 that have been sold by Saturn Power to CVE NA Devco LLC. So that's, I just wanted to bring that to your attention, and we'll continue to inform you as these things happen. Do you want to add to that at all, Millen?
In each of these instances, the project applicant entity is the same. So the entity that you approve to do these deals is the same. What we're finding a lot of these solar developers do is they will sell sort of upstream, if you will, either the owner of the entity or the owner of the entity, et cetera. So in each case, we have them submit a letter or an amendment to the application, just so that we have it, the application as amended is complete. Staff does some due diligence, and we ask for either financials or some information about who the new owner is. We don't bring it back to the board because the project is still the same. The project applicant is still the same. But the one thing in the application that you had previously seen is, in the thing is bottom of the first page where it says, ownership of the entity, that may change. It doesn't change the deal. So it's an administrative matter to change the documents and to revise the application. We just wanted you to know that this happens from time to time, and I think it's going to be happening more and more as these solar developments get their financing. And some of their financing is debt, some is equity, so they often restructure the ownership to fit that.
And this started way back in the early days of wind with Babcock and Brown. They called it the Babcock and Brown flop. They would get everything ready to go and bang, they would sell it to a Goldman Sachs or somebody that could use the tax credits. With the Inflation Reduction Act passed, there's a lot more credits here for wind. So I think we'll see, as you say, Millen, even more of this, because the LLC can't really use all the tax credits are going to be coming. So you're going to be flipping it to Goldman Sachs, big banks, big funds, big equity groups. So they are pretty well heeled and they can take advantage of the credit. So we're going to see, as you say, we'll see a lot more of that. But it's just the nature of the business today, and that's the way it's going to roll. So.
Yeah, I've let Millen know that Omni Solar LLC, all three of their projects will be, they're partnering with a new investor, IOYA, and there's a letter pending coming, but
Yep.
just
It's
if you're announcing.
consistent with everything that we've seen. Agreed.
The new owners are all based in the United States. It's not any foreign or European or Asian.
Not on Omni.
They're probably all international companies, but I'm assuming that most of them are based in the United States. Goldman Sachs is everywhere.
I understand.
Goldman Sachs, the other one is CVE North America.
Yeah, so.
Do any of the,
So it doesn't matter to us really.
No, I wouldn't think.
As long as the entity is subject to service or process in New York, so the actual entity that we contract with is still either a New York entity or authorized to do business in New York.
Right.
So, its owners can be all over the place, just like, if we were to do a deal with Coke, right? Its owners are all over the place. So we care a little bit because we want to know who we're doing business with if it's not publicly traded, but whether or not that entity is domiciled in the US is, I think, of a little less importance. But typically it's,
To take advantage of the credits, it has to be an American entity. So.
do any of the conditions or proffers or promises that the original owner made, does it carry on with the new guy?
Yes, I'm sorry, exactly. So nothing changes in our documents other than there's a rep that says that this entity will be owned by X, but the development, the employment, the financial assistance, everything is exactly the same because, again, your entity remains the same. It's only the upstream ownership that might change. And sort of like if they got a bank involved as opposed to these tax credits. So it's really just different ways to finance the exact same project. But the answer to your question is everything remains the same in terms of their obligations to us.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
I don't think so.
No.
Thank you.
That's it for me.
Move to the treasurer's report. Rich, please.
Thank you. We will start with the balance sheet as of August 31st, 2022. I'd like to point out that very good position here. I will note that if we look at this balance sheet, the first 5 columns are all the CCIDA under the CCIDA umbrella. And the last 2 are under the Critic umbrella. So I have attached here a letter from the Authority Budget Office that we received. And they are requesting and requiring that we separate Critic, the Critic organization out and do our own Paris report. In the past, we had a letter from the Authority Budget Office that said Critic was a component unit of the IDA and we should report it all together. And that has since changed now, and they're requiring us to do it separately. I'm in favor of this change. This change will move all the expenses that we have under Critic out of the IDA report and make our IDA report a lot better than it has been. We're going to, because none of the jobs that we could create under Critic were ever counted in the Authority Budget Office on the IDA and the Paris report, not the IBO, the Paris report. So I think it makes us look a lot cleaner, and we'll be working together with Nate, Crystal, and Kayla on using the software more to do some of the budgeting and that, where I've used the spreadsheet over the years. They're really delving into that. We bought another module for the software. So they're going to be taking over a little more of that as in Dennis' words, because I am getting a little long in the tooth here. So we're going to have them do that. But all in all, the balance sheet's in a great position. Cash is great. Our cash will continue to improve here as we'll be billing for 3 of the wind projects that we've had yearly payments. They'll be coming in and they're substantial. So everything looks good on the balance sheet. Turning to the statement of revenue and expense, that'll be the same thing. We're going to take those first 5 columns. We'll be having separate reports for the IDA and for Critic. And so we will determine how many columns we want under Critic. I'll do some discussions with Mike and whoever the new treasurer is and with Mark, and we'll see how much information we want to put there, because there are a lot of programs under Critic, CPEG being one of them. And there's ARPA money, there's this money, there's Sheldon. I mean, Nate's done a good job. We have as you know, the EDA brownfield grant. So we'll see how we want that to look for the board and how much information they want.
Wilson Foundation.
So we'll get right to the meat of it and go to the statement of revenue and expense. Our application and administrative fees, we are over budget at this point. We've sent some invoices out for these solar projects that are closing, and that's only 3 of the 20 we have in the queue. So the solar projects are quite lucrative for us. And so I think we're going to be in great shape on our budget number there. We have the grant income, some of that is timing issue, but that should come in right where we budgeted. So we have total revenue of 5.6. We have total expense of 2.3. A lot of that grant money, of course, is the finishing off the CARES Act money for the loan fund. And then we've received some other grants. So all in all, Mike, we're in real good shape here. Some of our expenses that are off are just timing and budgeting, things that changed in the budget. For example, we've had a lot more professional fees, and that's all related. That goes back to where we do get the grant money for that. Salaries, we've had some people off that we had budgeted for before, so that's falling under. And, I look down to my utilities. I don't have to tell everybody here, we're only 5,000 over, but as the winter months hit, it might go a little higher. Fortunately for us, most of that hits next year as it's delayed a month. But the electric bills are just, and the gas bills, and what I'm reading is they're going to get a lot worse. So we'll keep an eye on that. So unless there's any questions, Mike, that's all I have. I think we're in real good shape.
Oh, excellent report, Rich. We've already exceeded our revenue projections by by far, probably by about 50%. And so we've made our year and we don't have to worry about sitting around December 31st, waiting for those to come in. So.
Fortunately, those days are gone, Mike. That was no fun, and we did that for a long time here. You know, we did.
Yep, so you get to take off Christmas this year, Rich.
Thank you. And Mark said I could have some more coal for my scuttle too, so.
Yeah. Any other questions of Rich? Excellent report. At this time, I would entertain a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing the financial or credit history of a particular person or corporation, and to discuss matters relating to the proposed acquisition, sale, or lease of real property. In particular, I would like to discuss the status of our loan portfolio and the financial and credit status of some of our borrowers. Also, we will discuss certain possible property acquisitions and dispositions. And I believe that discussing them in open session would substantially affect their value. Do I have a motion? Well, thank you, Dennis. Is this your last motion, Dennis? Could be. Could be. Yeah. Seconded by Kevin. And I have to thank Dylan for for writing my script. I appreciate it. And Greg would know me enough that I could never put this together. So we have a motion second. All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, I'll have to